I had a mate commit suicide. He was 17 years old. Number one, that's just way too young to know anything about life and how good life can be. Good men are losing their lives over something that can be worked through. I've reached out to Chris Hemsworth, Luke Hemsworth, Russell Crowe.
I think mine must have gone in my other inbox. Sorry, I didn't lie.
No, you're on my list, bro.
All the blokes that you're painting, have you chosen them specifically because of their stories?
I've chosen these guys because there are lies that get told to you when you're in such a mess, and it says to you, just end it.
How did you get yourself out of that and to turn it into this motivation?
Is going to sound really cliche, but
welcome to the Better Bloke podcast. I'm Matty.
I'm Rob.
And we're just a pair of average blokes on a mission to try and be a little bit less average.
We're going to speak about all things highs and lows of what it feels like to be a bloke, plus speak to some legends along the way about what it takes to be a better bloke. Let's get stuck in.
Welcome back to the Better Bloke project, where we're going to jump in with Lini to talk about all the stuff that you got going on with your new The Blue project. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, just to get us off the line?
Yeah, man. I'm the founder and creative director of a project called The Blue Project, and it's an initiative based in the creative scene. So basically, I'm an artist, I'm a painter, and I have a lot of love and passion for men's mental health, men's suicide prevention. So I'm trying to create a different scenario or create different ideas for people to use as therapy methods, as prompts for healing and tools to use. So that's kind of like the basic nuts and bolts of it. And so what I'm doing practically is I'm going around Australia painting, or want to paint the 10 most famous men for men's suicide prevention, but I also want to capture their stories of like vulnerability. And I've got such a diverse range of guys on board, and all their stories kind of differ. And I'm hoping that the ripple effects within the wider community, people can kind of like resonate with different stories about what people have been through. Like Jonathan Thurston's story is going to be different to Kyle Sandilands, and they can see like similarities with how they've dealt with problems. And then apply it to their lives and my life as well, and then heal and move forward and learn those tools and do some good shit within the community,
Yeah, super cool project. I saw you when you first started kicking it off and talking about it.
Yeah,
and like straight away, obviously your artwork is rad.
Yeah,
but then as you've slowly been getting these people time after time, it's good to see their stories and hear them talking about it and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly, man. Well, that's the whole purpose. Like, so it started. The first painting I did was the project started like way behind the scenes in Bali, and I'm mates with Cody Simpson, and I was just meant to be doing a painting for one of his houses, one of his villas, and I'm like, I'll do your portrait, man, because, I'm classically trained in portrait art. And he's like, yeah, sweet. And he goes, I've got some mates that would probably love this and all that. And then it kind of just grew and just snowballed from there. He got me in touch with Kyle. And then I actually didn't do Kobe's painting in Bali. The first painting I did was Kyle Sandilands live on the Kyle and Jackie O show. So sat in the studio for like 5 hours painting him, which was cool. That was a real blessing to start there with that one. That was cool. And then the names just kept rolling, and I've got my 10 guys now that all want to jump on. And the support for it has just been crazy, just because it's different. It's I think for me, like, we've gone from when Jesus was born up until 1995, and nobody ever talked about issues. Nobody ever talked about what's going on in their lives. Like, post-wartime, it's like suppressed feelings. Like, that's just what it was. And for us growing up, like as young kids, like no one ever spoke about feelings of that. I think that we've got into an age now where it's the awareness age.
Yeah.
But for me, that's not enough. Everyone's aware now. Everyone knows about mental health. But I think the next step in the evolution of the mental health game is practical delivery of that awareness, and that's what I'm trying to do with this project.
Yeah.
I mean, art saved me, and so this is my practical method of delivery. And then I love stories and I love people, and so joining all those forces together, that's kind of the end goal, just to get those stories out, And I think that like COVID undid a lot of the influencer power, because everyone was like, whatever your opinion is about COVID, everyone was getting jabbed, and every, person with a million followers was getting paid to kind of influence people to get jabbed, and, you get your burger for a jab and all that sort of stuff. So I understand that the age of the influencers kind of like, dispersed amongst the people kind of like at the moment. But, I really do feel as though us as humans, like we've got our influences, our icons, and our leaders, and we naturally look up to these people. And if we're looking up to them, in a sense of appreciation for what they've achieved, to celebrate their success and that, and they're talking about this stuff and they're telling us how they got through, being falsely accused of a murder or something. You know what I mean? Like, these are powerful stories, and I think it's a good thing. I love it. I love the stories.
Have you chosen, so all the blokes that you're painting, have you chosen them specifically because of their stories? So where, like, a lot of these guys, like, people do look up to them as heroes, and you're sort of normalizing them so they can make it more relatable to, I guess, like, everyday blokes or everyday people.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. So I've reached out to probably 30, maybe 35 of Australia's, like, just standard names, like Chris Hemsworth, Luke Hemsworth, Russell Crowe.
I think mine must have gone in my other inbox. I didn't see it. So,
yeah, the other account.
Sorry, I didn't reply.
No, you're on my list, bro.
Yeah, no, sweet.
I've chosen these guys because, like, what they've been through is so relatable to everyone within the wider community. But what the difference is that at some point they've gone, nah, fuck it. I'm not going to let this defeat me, and I'm going to come out the other side, and I'm going to continue living my life. That's happened. I've dealt with it. I've taken responsibility. I've taken accountability. I've made amends, and I'm just going to keep kicking on with my success, and that's what really has spoken to me, because, like, man, nobody's perfect. I'm not. I'm the first person to put my hand up and say, like, I've fucked up a lot in life, and I've fucked up other people's lives. I've hurt other people. I've bled on people who haven't cut me, like, man, and that resonates with me. And, what's inspiring is these guys stepping out of the perceived judgment from other people and then going, you know what, I'm going to keep kicking on. I'm going to keep going. And I feel like that's in men's suicide prevention, that's a big, like, green door, or a green light. You walk through that door and you're making the decision to just move forward one day at a time, 1% better every day,
Yeah. It's not a sort of indifferent, I guess, ethos of approaching it as we're trying to do with this. The whole thing is better bloke. No one's going to be the best bloke.
Yeah.
And we want to talk to guys that have, done something good, right?
Yeah.
They've chased a dream, or they've gotten out there and they're doing something.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about sort of your story that led you to, I guess, be so proactive with entering this men's health space? Like, this isn't, I guess, normal. Like, you've gone a step deeper into this and you're really putting time and effort into it.
Yeah.
How did you get there?
Yeah, well, so I'm my ethos is specifically men's suicide prevention, and there's been a couple of events that have happened in my life. One of them, I was 15 years old, and I had a mate commit suicide. He was 17 years old, and number one, that's just way too young to know anything about life and what and how good life can be, and that affected me at the time. It was horrific, and you know, yeah, that really affected me. But I moved on with my life, and not as in forget about him, but I went to work, had kids, I did the daily thing, and Luke always was here in the back of my mind, and it wasn't until I had another close family member. This was 2 years ago now. Commit suicide. That all that came up from the past. All of the like unresolved trauma of my friend when I was a teenager, and that connection over there was 15 years in between the two that were really close to me, and it triggered something for me just to go, fuck it, like you know, good men are losing their lives over something that, you know, can be worked through. And, you know, like, so back then, 15 years ago, the mental health thing was just, you know, gaining traction. It was just getting, you know, in its infancy, and there was no real support, but now there is. And I feel as though, you know, it's very personal to me to not want to see other families get torn apart and grieve like ours did. You know, like that is the genuine philosophy of my program, my project.
I think what you said before with that after your mate passed, that like you had to get on with, you know, living your life, but he was always in the back of your head.
Yeah.
I think that's probably something good that everyone always goes like, oh, you know, shit, it's like, it's really sad what happened and whatnot. But no one really goes, okay, yep, you need to live on, you need to move on with your life, you need to keep living. But no one really talks about the fact that you always still remember that person and like how it actually affects those around that person. Because at that time, like they don't see any other way out. They think, oh, yeah, no, fuck, I'm making it easier on everyone.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's not. You're just sort of shifting the pain. I know everyone always says that, you know, you're shifting your pain onto other people through what you do via trauma and whatnot. Yeah. But it's like, it's so good to hear you actually say that, you know, to a public audience that it's making it vocal that is a thing. And like, boys are there to listen. Yeah. Anyone's there to listen. You just, before it gets to that point, you need to at least reach out for someone.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. And I think there's a big, well, there's in the suicide prevention like place at the moment. So my like little slogan is, "You won't be there alone." That's my main thing. I think that like men differentiating or men kind of perceiving support as weakness, I want to break that stigma, like big time. And you know, it goes with my project. These guys coming on board, like, they're not being weak. They're sharing a vulnerable moment, but they're sharing it in support of our wider community, you know? So I agree with you, definitely.
Yeah, we speak on that a lot, like to be a real man, right? You have a vast range of emotions and feelings and things you're dealing with, and part of that is moments of weakness and vulnerability. Yeah. And we see it so much in the page, like obviously 300,000 dudes in a group with this orientation to help each other. There'll be comments like, you know, we'll carry you when you don't have the strength to carry yourself. Yeah. You can have that moment. Yeah. Like, we got a hand for you. We'll help you back up and you'll be on your feet. You don't want to make that permanent solution to an issue which is temporary. Yeah,
correct.
And I think so easy to say when you're not in that spot. Yeah. But just the more we talk about it, and like you said, awareness isn't a new thing. Like this mental health awareness thing, it's been happening for a while now. Yeah. But to really normalize the fact that there will be times when we're down and out. Yeah. I think that's so important to take away the negative connotations of that.
Yeah. No, you're right, man. There's it's releasing that stigmatization in your mind and that perceived judgment of, reaching out to a guy, because, I mean, fuck, we've had millennia of like, the patriarchy, and what we're meant to do and whatever. But, times are changing. And like I've struggled big time, even in the last 6 months, man. There's been times where I've had, it's a lie that sits here and it tells you just, it'll be easier. And it's you do feel so fucking alone, and the only person talking to you is this one here. And there are lies that get told to you when you're in such a mess and a disheveled state, and it says to you, just end it. There's nothing, there's no way out. You cannot problem solve your way out of this. It's just easier to cut and run all your problems. And I've experienced that. And there's been times when I have wanted to end it all and not wanted to end it all. And then for me, that was a cry for help and attention. And I got the help that I needed at the time. But there's been about 2 times, one serious time that I've gone like, this is it.
Like, what did you do to get yourself out of that sort of, that mindset to, like, you're still here with us and you're doing some like fucking gnarly stuff now to help. So obviously that's like been a motivating factor for you, but at that time you wouldn't have seen it as the motivating factor.
No.
So like how did you get yourself out of that and to turn it into like this motivation into what you're doing now? Yeah,
man, that's a fucking good question. So there's been two big times in the last 2 years. The first one is gonna sound really cliche, but I called Lifeline, and mate, those guys, they're the real fucking heroes, because the person that sat behind that phone and listened to me, I'll never meet him, but I would love to take him out for a beer. Like, he listened to me. I didn't know him, and that's his job, whatever, but it's his job because he cares about other people. Yeah. But I called Lifeline, and Lifeline fucking that day, like, it was, I don't know where it came from, just call. And I did. And he talked me through it, and there was no judgment, there was only support, and there was only, love as far as you could have gone. Being, talking to someone, for him it was a professional thing. For me it was I'm reaching out. But man, like the guys that sit behind the phone at Lifeline, and it sounds cliche because it's on the end of every news segment. If you're experiencing or like, on the news that they've spoken about a suicide, or if you're feeling this, call Lifeline. But man, it works.
That's what it's there for.
Yeah, it absolutely works.
Yeah, props to those crew, because it is hard to do it at that scale. I've heard like they struggle getting enough people on those phones. So,
and like very understandable, even just with like some of the, we're not talking face to face or like on the phone to a lot of the boys that we talk to, but even just via text, some of the conversations we're having to have with blokes, like, it can be heavy, let alone when someone's in that state doing it on the phone where you can physically feel the hurt in their, like, you can hear the hurt in their voice.
Yeah, you
like,
can
that's
read
gotta
it.
be fucking hard.
You can read it in some of the messages we get.
Yeah.
And it is that reaching out at that last moment, which is, it's so great it's there.
Yeah.
I think part of the conversation that is getting more popular and more important is the distinguishing between mental health and mental illness.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
So many people don't deal with it until it's down the track.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult, but that's when you're thinking of it as an illness.
Yeah.
But if you think of it as health, and, you don't have to go that far down a deep route if you're doing the right things.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be more commonly talked about. What are you doing for your mental health? Has nothing to do with mental illness.
Yeah. Yeah, like, exactly.
That whole conversation is making change.
Yeah. Mental health is the outcome. So that's what we want, is we do want mental health. We don't want mental sickness.
Mm.
So mental health being the outcome, that's here. Mental health is good. So
I think, and that's unreal for, like, we've said this so many times that mental health, whenever everyone hears the term mental health,
yeah,
they go, oh, fuck, that
Yeah.
sucks. Like, oh, you poor thing. Like, mental health is the overall picture. Like, you can
Yeah.
have good
Yeah,
mental
yeah.
health. That's what everyone should be fucking striving
yeah,
for.
yeah, that's exactly
So,
right.
like, it's so good to hear someone from, like, that's from your perspective in
Yeah.
what you're doing is you're aiming for good mental health. It's
Yeah.
not just about using that term mental health as
Yeah.
like a bad thing.
Yeah. So when I say, are you healthy? When you go to that, you're just going to go, yeah, body's cool, don't smoke, you know, have a couple of drinks.
Knees aren't a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
It's-
So when I say the words, you know, do you feel healthy? The connotations with healthy is health is good. It's good. So when you're speaking the words mental health, good. You know, that's the way that I see it. Mental illness, man, I think that there's so much information. It's pretty hard to cut through sometimes. I think that one of the things that I've got in my project is objectivity. So the guys know what they've been through because they've been able to self-identify what's actually happening here, or here, should I say. You know, Kyle, for example, was homeless, and he identified what needed to happen to get him out of it. And I think that on the topic of, you know, finding the tools to be able to deal with mental illness, there's so much information, and it's and you can get, like, you can drown in it, and you can get lost in all the information, I think. But I think probably something to work on is self-observation and self-identification, I suppose, and self-worth. And the second time that I experienced a big, you know, wash of wanting to commit, was I made a call to a friend, and she just goes, you know, this is what you're worth. This is your worth. Have a look at what you've done. Have a look at, you don't have a trail of destruction behind you. Yeah, you've done some shitty things. And yeah, you've hurt some people, but you've also done 20, 30 times more good in the world. And you're not defined by this. You know, this is, you know, the shitty things that you do, that I've done, you know, are stepping stones of learning. And yeah, that's probably what got me out of the last one. And that was a deep rut, because I'd lost everything. I'd lost the most important person to me after doing some pretty stupid stuff. And yeah, you know, there was the lie that was sitting there, and the lie was going, you know, what are you worth without her? You know, so, you know, having to find yourself, and it's a process through that. It was kind of crazy, but yeah, I think that it's going back to the information. There's so much shit on what personality are you. You know, like, there's so much crossover between different personalities and all that sort of stuff. You can get lost in it, and then trying to find solutions. You know, if you're having an argument with a close person to you, and then you try to define their personality, so you can almost like draw horoscopes, and, you know, and try to work it. It's just, you get lost in it, you know. And I think
so that just murky the waters. And if you're in that state, because you're trying to, obviously what everyone does now is they'll go like, oh, fuck, I'm feeling this way, I'm going to go straight to Google, or I'm going to go, how can I do this, and like, it sounds like what you're saying with all these different things that you're finding, like, it just makes it harder for you to distinguish
Well,
what you need to do to fix it.
There's no way of doing everything that it tells you to do, because if it's like, how do I get better mental health, and you followed everything, you'd be exercising, eating cleaner, seeing a therapist,
Ice baths.
doing psychedelics, ice baths, saunas. Bloody,
There's not enough time.
But like you said, one of the biggest things that seems to be a common trait between the guys you've spoken to is a sense of self-awareness.
Yeah, and self-worth as well.
Self-worth,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
probably comes from self-awareness.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
actually
you're right.
knowing yourself and being true to yourself. Authenticity goes a long way.
Yeah.
And then that's provides a stable base to be able to figure out which of all those things might work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right, man. That's definitely a common theme with all the guys that are on board. Yeah, and the influence with the project is that they've all been able to find a way out. But that doesn't mean that they're still not struggling with it. They've just managed to keep fucking going, you know, and that's what is so inspiring, you know. And then that's how I've drawn the pillars or the foundations of the project, you know, just to keep going. And that's what needs to happen when that lie is spoken to you about ending it all. Just keep going, you know.
That's very much what it sounds like you've been doing.
Yeah.
And something I've picked up just today is you're really accountable for your past.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time, like how important that is, because it's very hard to move forward and be anything good if you're blaming other people or you don't carry that weight yourself so you can deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right, man. Look, accountability is different to responsibility. I think that, it's the blame. It's easy. It's so easy to go, hey, someone else did this and I had a reactive, abusive moment or whatever, and therefore I'm justified in how I've treated you or whatever. But that's, you can't live like that. The problem is centric here. And to move forward in your authentic self, you have to deal with the problem here. And then it radiates. And then if it catches on someone else and you're able to solve that problem and that solution, that's cool. But if they don't accept that, then you also have to accept that problem then is now rectified here, but you can't do much. You can't force them to say, hey, man, like, this is different or I want to change this, you know. And for me, that's what accountability looks like. It's the first step towards moving forward, you know, is not blaming anyone else, you know. It's so easy to blame circumstance, environment, people, upbringing, stuff that's not resolved. That's the easiest road to take, and I still do it, you know, but I have to stop myself from doing it. And like, you know, I do it all the time. I blame other people. I blame the traffic for being late this morning. I blamed the fucking bridge that was at Reedy Creek, only brand new built, only 2 lanes wide. It's like, you know, I blame that. But
I think that's just it's a bit of a human nature thing too, though.
Yeah.
You're always gonna, I don't know, that you need to teach yourself what sort of comes naturally. It's like, oh, this is the reason, this is the excuse. Where I guess that's sort of why we're preaching accountability so hard. And it obviously sounds like you're preaching accountability as a game changer. So
I learn it I have to relearn it. Accountability every day, man. You know, it's accountability. I don't think. Do you reckon it comes naturally?
No, not at all.
No, I don't think it is. And that's why I think, like what you said just then, you need to relearn it every day.
Especially when you're young and dumb as a man. I think we just do shit without thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it's just easier to like
deal with
pretend
the
that shit didn't
consequences.
happen or like blame someone else. It's just easier, and I think that's our baseline.
Yeah.
And then like as we start to realize we're hurting people, we're hurting ourselves, we start to be like, hey, this isn't the right way to conduct ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's a growth pattern. And I don't think that happens until
too
late, honestly.
Till the, what is it, the prefrontal cortex, frontal lobe?
Yeah, late 20s or something.
Talking too technical for me now.
Yeah, blokes don't develop, hey.
Yeah, we don't develop, I don't think, till we're 30. Yeah,
Look, that'd probably be about right. 'Cause I reckon some days I'm still a kid though. So it's
Man, I'm a kid every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Peter Pan syndrome.
that's it. Going back to your so your project you're doing. So obviously
Yep.
you've got some pretty influential blokes,
Yeah.
and the stories of what you're telling their stories through their portraits.
Yep.
Now I've got no artistic bone in my body.
No, that's cool.
Like I'm probably what people would refer to as artistically retarded. Can we say the R word now or
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, sweet. How run us through the process of just say we'll use JT for example.
Yep.
So you get on the blower with him, and you call him up and you go, "Hey, I'm doing this project."
Yeah.
Like what's the process to the point where you've got the finished product, and then how are you going to display it?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So me as an artist, and this is going to sound retarded, but it's true. I see stories in color, and my job is to convert that color and that story onto a still picture on a canvas. So the colors that I use are the emotions that I'm feeling while the story is being told. And that's just as simple as it is. Kyle's is like kind of turquoise, aqua, cyan, green. That's the base of the coloring. And to know Kyle off air is to know a different person. You know, he is so calm and collected and not like what you see. It's not like that. And I'm not saying that he's a different bloke or he's an act or anything like that, but as soon as he switches the mic on, that's when, you know, he's being authentic to himself. But away from Mike, he's as calm as anything and just the loveliest guy. And what prompted me to reach out to Kyle, in the first place, was I saw a reel on Instagram about him judging on Idol, I think, and recently too, where one of the contestants was homeless, and it brought him to tears, and he had an big empathetic moment, and they captured it and they put it online, and I'm just like, there's the guy, like that's what I want to capture, because that's so beautiful, like what that moment, and I wanted to capture that moment, and that moment proved to be right in private. He's the most empathetic, like one of the most empathetic, loving humans that I've met. He's a really nice guy, really good dude, a good man, and I'm very blessed to have had him, on the project. And when I emailed Tegan, his wife, they were actually the quickest to come back to me within an hour of me sending the email. They were both like, "Yep, we're in. No worries. What do you need? Kyle would love to do this while you're in the studio, while they're live on air." And so that was like a moment where I was like, "Fuck, wow! Like this is, people are really gravitating towards this." So capturing emotion essentially on canvas. And where am I going to be displaying them? So November this year. So basically, one step back, I'm doing 3 different portraits of 10 guys.
Oh, okay.
So I'm doing 30 portraits all up. Only 10 of them are from life because, like, man, these guys' scheduling is crazy. So I'm doing 30 different style portraits in paying homage to different style artists. Because my range as an artist is pretty big. So I can do Van Gogh through to Rothko, all different styles. So I'm paying homage to 30 different artists that have lived and still are alive, or dead and alive. And the significance of 30 is that, my understanding is that there's 30 different types of anxiety, stress, and depression that are directly affecting men in this day and age. And that's, go back to Google. My understanding is that there's about 30 different types of anxiety, stress, and depression that are that are affecting men in this modern age, and each different style is to pay homage to each different stress and the significance of the story behind each one. It correlated. So I had lunch with Sam Worthington a couple of months ago, and beautiful human, great guy, very complex in the way that he approaches problem solving. So I'm going to be dedicating his portrait as Vincent van Gogh, because he was completely complex, and still there's questions raised about who he was as a person now. So drawing that similarity, Sam's going to be painted in the style of Vincent van Gogh as paying homage to that.
Yeah, that's
complexity,
cool. So there's still like you're bringing parts of that, I guess, the OGs of art essentially, but you bring it into like the modern world to portray, I guess, what you feel emotionally for their story as well.
And that's where art comes into play. Like, you know, what is the point of art? It's to evoke emotion or contemplation. So to add like deeper elements to that story. It's pretty much like a perfect synergy with awareness. Because it's making people think about stuff we're trying to make them think about. So art as a discipline, fucking awesome.
Yeah, exactly, man. You know what I mean? Like art saved me. Art is my authentic self, and I spoke about this on my last podcast. So art in its truest form is chaos, and it's been said that art is a reflection of reality. And so just like wrongly, I carried this idea that life needed to be chaos in order for the art to be authentic. And I did live quite chaotically for a long time. And I've since had some deep reflection about that. And that's not right, because chaos, my personal chaos, you know, rubs off onto the people who are closest to me. And that's not right in love towards them. So I've had to come at a different approach with my art, more of a objective. So art is subjective in itself, but more of an objective of this is what I'm going to do, instead of just fancifully create out of fucking nowhere and then come out of a creative orgasm state and just go, whoa, I did that, you know, like, yeah. So I've really had to hone in my objectivity on what I'm doing. And that's, you know, I mean, like before this project, I've done a lot of work with other charities. I've done work for the Daniel Morecambe Foundation, Grey Matter Soiree, Breast Cancer WA, and I kind of just wanted to do it all on my own, you know, for a purpose and a cause that I believe in, you know, big time.
Sweet. I really want to get into, I guess, that chaos that you've lived. But we're coming
running out of time.
We're running out of time.
We can do a part two.
I reckon we should part two it, like
sweet.
Closer to when you actually do your show, which you haven't told us about yet. Tell us about when that's happening.
November, Sydney, Potts Point. I'm hoping all the guys are going to be there. If not, that's completely fine. And basically raising the sale of all the work is going to go towards men's suicide prevention, and then also go into next year's Blue Project, where I'll be inviting 10 other artists in to paint subjects as well as myself. And for me, that's, you know, building up the art community as well, so that they have a chance to, you know, so like sometimes a portrait artist might only get one opportunity to paint someone famous in their whole life. I'm doing 10 this year, which is awesome, and it's going to create a foundation and a bedrock for other artists to step in and go, hey, you know, I want to paint someone here, you know, give me a chance, you know. And I think that that's going to be brilliant for the art community, because it's like a platform for them to be able to go, yep, I've got access now. That it's the access that's the hard part, you know.
So like you're like trailblazing the opportunity for others to come along and
trying to,
yeah, that's unreal.
Yeah.
Where can, so anyone that's listening that wants to follow along, like where do where do we find your project? Where do we find you? Like, what's your This is your little moment.
This is a down the
let
barrel.
everyone
It's my
know.
15 minutes. No, so just my personal page. I've steered away from having its own separate page. So my personal page, I'm intrinsically linked with the project. At this stage right now, it's still in its infancy in regards to public viewing. So I've only got Oki, Parko and JT and a bit of Kyle on there at the moment. But as it progresses and as I get more comfortable with releasing the vulnerable stories and that, I'll be releasing more. There's no paid promotion page or anything like that. It's just what I'm doing, and then I'm open to have a chat and always DMs are always open to talk to guys and yeah.
No, and I think that's what makes it. It's exactly what you just said. Like, it's authentic. It's you, and that's why I know part of what we want to do is we want to promote blokes that are going out, giving the fucking nudge, and that's exactly what you're doing.
Giving it a crack,
Right.
and
Yeah.
doing good stuff.
Yeah.
So on that note, we'll put all your links in the description and tags and all that sort of stuff if you do want to check out his work. Some super cool videos already of the boys you have done. So be sure to follow along on the Better Bloke project, and we'll catch you on the next one.
And as always, be better. Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Better Bloke. If you got anything out of it, show some love by dropping a 5-star review below.
If you want to learn more about everything we're doing, head to the description, hit the links and follow us on the socials. If you want to learn more about the project, head to betterblokeproject.org.